Hello, hi, welcome to this video right here. So I feel like so many things have happened. Pluto's moved into Aquarius, which, I turned all the cards upright. We're starting with every single card upright. Seven of Cups. It's been a lot of cups. When I was turning the cards upright, the deck ended up split in half, and it was the Nine of Cups on one half and the Ten of Cups on the other half, and now the Seven of Cups is at the bottom. What's interesting about the Seven of Cups and then Justice is behind it. I'm looking at the clouds in the Seven of Cups, and in this deck in particular, it's just like what lies beyond our choices is unknown. The choices are presented up front, but behind them are these like gray, very gray clouds. The grayness of these clouds makes me think of the Ace of Swords in the Mystical Medleys tarot, like old cartoony one, and how in the Ace of Swords it's like that gray cloud that's kind of like beat up a little bit, and it's like knowing that comes not at a price. Mystical Medleys, Leys, not Lyes. Let's see if I can do Ace of Swords. Ace of Swords. Ace of Swords. This is not the Mystical Medley. Wait, yeah, it is. Yes, it is. What? Girl, I didn't know that. What? I didn't know Benabel Wynn had made a blog post about the Mystical Medleys. Shook. Oh, you can only see like. I'm going to scroll through here and see. You can only see the corner of the cloud. Maybe that's the point. Anyway, I can only be live for like an hour and a half today. So, and then it's lunchtime. Things have been so interesting lately. I was just telling my journey buddy, and I mentioned it last time, that it feels like there's a little bit of, here it is. The Ace of Swords, how it's like gray and kind of like beat up. But it's like something that it's still like smiling. So it is a kind of like hard fought or hard won knowledge, but it's something that we're like glad to know. That could be the space of like not so comfy truths. It could be like a harsh truth that we're exposed to, but like we're glad that we know, because it's better to know the truth than to be blissfully unaware. But I was telling her, like, and I mentioned it last time, there's an element of almost force that I feel like is so there's an element, and I was telling, it's like it's almost forced, but it's not forced. And it's not forced because I am who I am now. Because I am who I am now, and because I'm open to what I'm open to, the Emperor. This is an interesting combination. This is us owning our choices regardless. I think sometimes it's very human and it's very easy to go like, oh, I made this choice or I made that choice, but I didn't know the consequences. I didn't know like it would lead to this or that. Like if I had known, then I wouldn't have chosen, blah, 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 whatever. But the Emperor like owns their choices. Now, the circumstance of not knowing what it could lead to and everything is the same. But the Emperor doesn't use that to shift the blame. The Emperor still owns up to whatever consequence is theirs to own. And then the Four of Cups and Justice is under that. This feels like whatever that wasn't chosen is presented to the emperor. Behind that is the Knight of Swords and the Three of Cups. And behind the Three of Cups is the Three of Pentacles. And then behind that is the Wheel of Fortune. So this is an energy. It's very much like the Emperor is the Emperor. It's very much like the ideal or a quality that one would admire in leadership, right? Someone that can own up to their own mistakes without trying to shift blame onto whoever for whatever reason. And it's almost like because the emperor honors their choices, even their mistakes, they're seen in a way that even if they don't always make the right choice, they're seen as like trustworthy, someone you can work with, because even if they make a mistake, they'll own it. And it's because of that that there are certain opportunities that find them. So even if it's not like, again, because it feels like one of these things that was not chosen, because the emperor owns their choices and owns their mistakes and their victories, they're presented with that one anyway. And this could very well be the case that none of these cups is this cup right here. Because justice is the 11th major arcana. Between the 4 and the 7, there are 11 cups. That 11th one, the emperor gets because of justice. Under justice is the King of Swords and the Ace of Swords, where we had the Knight of Swords on the other side. And the Ace of Swords, that's literally the card I was talking about, right? It's interesting because the 4 of Cups, the clouds don't seem as dark. They're not even necessarily as dark here. Anyway, there's like this element of force that is very like Wheel of Fortune progressive, but not, in my experience, in the like 5 to 6 days Pluto has been in Aquarius. Even kind of sort of a little bit before that, in the past week, in the past 7 days, because that's when it started 7 days ago. Oh my gosh. I promise these coasters don't always stick, but when they do, I'm live. If you come in at some point and you can't chat, it's because I turned the live chat off for this one. So it's basically like a video that I'm recording live to post. That, you know. Anyway. Yeah, it's been this element of like, I was telling my journey buddy, it's like there's a certain fluidity of flow that in the past, even when it was like had momentum to it, compared to whatever this past week has been, like that was a lazy river. And so it almost feels like pressure, but it's just because the momentum of flow is so much greater. And there's the sun at the bottom of the deck. This is the sun that was associated with that Ten of Swords. It was the sun and the Ten of Cups, I think, associated with the Ten of Swords, and then the Page of Pentacles came out. Anyway. And it requires, at least for me, since my darkest night, everything that I've grown to learn and be and everything else in the past 6 years, it's required a lot of that to like keep myself from capsizing and this just like, I guess it's a narrowing, because because in fluid, like if you have a pipe and then it expands, the velocity of the fluid typically, unless there's some element of force, like a pump or something, the velocity will decrease because there's such an expansion in like the volume. But if you like compress it, then the velocity increases, right? It's like if you have a hose and you kind of like squeeze it or whatever and it speeds up. Like Pluto and Aquarius, like it was a compression. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be compression, but with what I understand of fluid dynamics and physics, for the same volume of water or for the same body of water in whatever system to suddenly increase in velocity, there had to be either an element of force like a pump or something at some point, or like a compression. It compressed and it like sped up. And that's what it feels like. So it's not necessarily like a bad pressure. It's just like this compression, this fine tuning, this like elimination of any of the unnecessary or a lot of the unnecessary. And because of that, it's also not to necessarily cause unnecessary like friction. Because again, like when things suddenly speed up, it can be so easy to just like capsize. But I don't know, because everything has happened in the way that it's happened, and because I've made the choices and decisions that I've made and that I continue to make, um, it's just like, you know, anyway. And it was interesting because it was like I can go to similar situations in the past. The sun and the Ten of Swords. You see that I cut to it. The sun is with this Ten of Swords. This Ten of Swords represents completion. So when the Ten of Swords was in reverse, rather than it being like a Ten of Swords ending that needed to happen that wasn't happening, it's like beyond the Ten of Swords. Like this is in the past. It's already happened. It's not happening. And this next step is like still coming. I'm trying to keep them all upright. So it's this weird, almost timeless, like if this has already happened and this is yet to come, then like, where are we? Ten of Swords, Two of Pentacles. I put all these cards upright. We saw the Wheel of Fortune upright. Now it's on its side. These cards, they do that. I'll leave it on its side. But yeah, I've been in situations in the past where there was something very similar, and I would just like freak or spaz or whatever and be like, no. Torian overdrive. No. And I don't know, it's just not, because growth. It's not who I am anymore, you know? Ooh, the Page of Wands. I've been thinking about that too. Now the Ten of Swords is on its side. Does this answer the question? No. I'm pretty sure the Page of Wands was the first, wasn't it? I think for the magician of like the first responder magician, the Page of Wands was the first fire card that came out. And it was such an even balance of like water, earth, and air. Unlike the magician of the graveyard that was like fire and air dominant. And I was thinking like the magician of the graveyard is associated with death. The Empress is associated with like birth, life. And that Empress was the Empress energy for the Magician of Death was like basically barren. In the whole deck, only one other card was in the same configuration as the Empress, and it was the Two of Swords. And it's like something, it's just like so unaligned with the modality of that magician that it's like it should have been no surprise that it wasn't happening. And I feel like usually I'd just be like, but I tried anyway. Page of Wands. There's something, because the Page of Wands is in the desert, even in the Seven of Wands. So, Seven of Wands, Ten of Swords, Page of Wands. In the Seven of Wands, there's at least like vegetation on the hill. But after the Ten of Swords, the Page of Wands is in the desert. Also, there was that energy of like, it was creation that didn't need to come at the cost of destruction. It first came out, I think now the Wheel of Fortune is in reverse. This wheel just keeps on turning. Every time I see it, it's like different. It was the desert that we saw in the Places Oracle. And it was like, because the destruction has already happened. That's what led, that was the Desert Library Art Gallery. And now death is on its side. I started with these all upright. It looks like they're all on the side now. So it would be easier to pull the cards that aren't. The Five of Pentacles. Literally, so the Five of Pentacles, the Ten of Swords, and the Wheel of Fortune. Every card in the deck is facing the same way as death. The Five of Pentacles was upright. The Wheel of Fortune and the Ten of Swords was in reverse. So it's almost like these two things are not like the linchpin, but these two things are like at odds with each other. And it's almost like this determines may be a strong word. This can influence the direction of death. Like if things tend towards rebirth, death, or things that come back to life. I don't know. Anyway, that isn't even necessarily what this was supposed to be. This is supposed to be its Sag season. Let's see what happens. Judgment at the cut. Oof. Oof, 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 oof. I turned them all up right again. Judgment at the cut with death. Because it's like when they come together, they can like slide a little bit. Or as I'm shuffling, they can like, but since they're squares, you know, it's not necessarily the easiest to tell. Anyway. So cool. But I feel like the energy of that pressure pretty much fits the narrative of like, if Pluto and Capricorn has successfully done what it was supposed to do, then as Pluto shifts into Aquarius, the foundation is already there. So Pluto and Aquarius can immediately start building, or it can enter. It's almost like it feels like very Jupiterian. It feels like Jupiter because it's like expansive, like building a network. It's the networking part of Aquarius. Almost like picking teams for a game, right? Like first you pick your team and then the game starts. Anyway, Five of Wands at the bottom. I am Five of Wands and the Devil. Oof. I don't know. Maybe I should just, Anyway, let's see. I want to use the Places Oracle. These are the cards that came out after the last one, the like 25-minute video. It was the Wishing Well, the Lighthouse, the Restaurant, the Rain, and the Hot Spring. And it was this energy of like the echoes of wishes, more specifically. Echoes of wishes being this lighthouse. Almost in that Seven of Cups type of way. It's almost like the odds have been fixed better. So like if in the Seven of Cups there was it's almost like there's a 10% chance in like 1 out of every 10 cups was good, desirable, something that we actually genuinely want, and not something that is a desire that is created and generated by the status quo, conditioning, whatever. A choice that will truly lead us to where we want to go, rather than one with all the dark clouds behind it. 1 in 10 cups, but you're only presented with 7 cups in the Seven of Cups. So sometimes you have to like go through multiple rounds of Seven of Cups to get the winner. But it's like the odds are being fixed where it's guaranteed that one of the 7 cups that so you don't have to go multiple rounds. Every single round, there is at least one choice that's a winner, if not multiple. And so the Restaurant and Savor Each Bite of the illumination of like these echoes of wishes, it was to choose more, to savor more, to get better acquainted with the winner. And then that would be this like cleansing that would lead to a rejuvenation. Right? It's like I've never gambled like in real life, back in the day, in the Pokemon games, and I think Saffron City. That was like the only way to get Porygon, I think. And then I think somebody was like, maybe we shouldn't be teaching like children how to gamble in these, Pokemon games, going to the casino. So they took that out. But anyway, never in real life. But it's like if you're on a winning streak or a good streak, it's easier to believe that you're gonna keep winning because you're on a streak, and so you keep playing. And because you believe you're gonna keep winning, you keep winning. More or less. Ooh, Lighthouse and River at the back. Okay. Anyway. Cool. That's just been like my personal experience. It's been fairly chill. And I think also too, not in my own personal, well, maybe not to the same degree, I will say. There has been, I've noticed, again, as disconnected as I am from so many things, now the coaster has hit the floor. Oh my gosh. It's fine. We'll just grab a new coaster and I'll pick it up later. There's 2 coasters left, so it's, I guess you could say, like the emergence. Oh my gosh. 1 second. I forgot that when I plugged this up, I turned it off again. So this may die, but that's fine. Um, how did I forget? No! Are you still there? Oh, I can see my keyboard light up. Okay, so since I'm up, I might as well pick up this coaster now. Oh. Yeah, I'm glad my laptop warned me that time and I caught it. That's again like back home. If you plug into an outlet, you are connected. This is maybe not the only place because I think when I went to India, some of the outlets were similar there. So it's like you have to be plugged into the outlet, and the power to the outlet has to be on. Because if the power isn't on, even if you're plugged in, you're not charging. So anyway, it's been the almost like a presentation of opportunity in a space of challenge. Karaoke, open stage, melodies for expression. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I am still obsessed with the deck dungeon challenges. So we're gonna get a challenge from doctor's office and gas station. Essential pit stop, take a break and refuel. Health consultations, trusted advice. Interesting. Doctor's office and gas station. This gives me an energy. It's especially after an irritating or frustrating experience. It's easier to be appreciative. But it's like it's going to a doctor and being like heard and listened to. It's not the experience that's like I went to the doctor and I told them what was wrong with me and like they didn't believe me, or it was this whole wild goose chase rigmarole that didn't address my actual symptoms. The doctor told me I have this thing that I know that I don't have. And how again that's like the breeding ground for so much frustration, not being listened to by the people who are supposed to be like healthcare providers. But that, like the doctor's office and the gas station, is like it's when you're listened to, it's when you're heard, when you get those actual answers and you have a plan and you can like afford it. You know what I mean? um this trip has been so I've like it's so much my intention to rewatch the self read that I did for this period of time because this trip has been like so interesting and I'm glad that I extended it anyway. I was Saturday. We went out to eat, and then we stopped by a grocery store before we came back. And there was someone wheeling, um, what do you call the things? It's like if you're moving and you have a lot of boxes, you put it on the thing. It's not a trolley, even though it could be called a trolley, I feel like somewhere. It's the thing. Anyway, I can't remember what it's called, but that's fine. Oh, it's gonna bother me. It's fine. It's the thing that you put the boxes on. Um, it was like full of boxes, and they all said like Neptune. It was like Neptune, 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 Neptune. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, and then I had a thought before I was live. I was thinking about the compressor, like this momentum. And like Pluto is officially moved into Aquarius. The ruler, modern ruler of Aquarius, is in Taurus right now. Taurus, being fixed Earth, is slow. So it's almost like there's the potential energy of Uranus is very high because it's not necessarily like a Mercury. But there is a movement associated with Uranus, and in Taurus, it's dampened. So it's almost like in Aquarius, all of that extra movement is like up there, you know. Anyway, but going back to like speaking of Uranus and Neptune, it was again, I thought of that thing because of Uranus, the potential of when it comes to the outer planets specifically, because we rely so much on observation, because they aren't planets that can be seen with the naked eye in the night sky, there is a certain element of almost like disconnectedness. And again, it's like it's a reliance upon observations more so than maybe a personal relationship. Because again, you can't just like look and see what's going on. And it was just like interesting to me. I found it interesting. So that'll be Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And how when we do get those observations, again, because of the because of the article I found, it's like all of the data that we got from Uranus was taken at a time when Uranus was experiencing cosmic weather that it doesn't usually experience. Like Uranus's magnetosphere had been impacted by cosmic whatever. And so, like, and then look, there's the death. Bye bye, Scorpio season. Um, I'm like, what's today? One of my best friend's birthday is coming up. I need to wish her a happy birthday. I think her birthday, I'm pretty sure her birthday is on the 29th. I guess every year, and every year I guess right. I was like, I knew it was the 29th. I don't know why I can't just like know it. You know what I mean? Maybe it's because I'm getting older. There are so many like names and faces and birthdays. I used to be so good. I'm just scrolling to the deck dungeon challenges. But yeah, like the magnetosphere of Uranus was dampened when we saw it. And because of that, still now, decades later, they're reinterpreting old data and getting new results, new findings from old data. What we thought we knew. It's like we knew what we thought. We believed that we knew what we thought we knew because of what we knew at the time. So it's like because of what it's almost that King of Swords energy again, more knowledgeable than wise sometimes. Because of everything that we believe to be true, there are certain conclusions that we arrive to at whenever we observe something. But when we find out, or when as life progresses and as we mature or whatever, we find out that the things that we used to believe to be true either aren't necessarily true or aren't universally true. They may be more conditional truths than we used to believe. And because we now know that those truths were conditional or were based upon who we were at whatever time and what our environment and society told us to be true, or our own observations despite the environment and society. Now that we know, maybe there are things that could be re-examined. There are deeper truths that we could find. So 10 of cups at the bottom of the deck. Love that. Okay, cool. So anyway, let's see. Let's go with that 10 of cups vibe. Sagittarius, no, Scorpio season. Scorpio season. What's also been interesting, the tower. The tower was, I think, the one of the energies of Libra season um, changing over to Scorpio season. And I think it was the Eight of Cups last time. We saw the Eight of Cups and then we saw the Tower. So someone was intuitively led and guided in a certain direction, only to find out or discover maybe that like after they left, a tower happened, and they're like, "Oh my gosh!" It's like almost like okay, never mind. Anyway, let's just keep going. What's interesting though, I feel like for Scorpio season and Libra season, the energy of the current season, because I do it after the seasons change. The energy of the current season came out before the energy of the previous season, right? Ooh, okay. The Three of Wands is the challenge from Scorpio season. This is interesting because before Scorpio season, I think it was going into Libra season. The challenge was the Seven of Wands, I believe. And so, yeah, because it was the Seven of Wands, you round down, it was the three um, fire monsters. I'm pretty sure it was three. The salamanders. Um, with the Three of Wands, there's only one salamander because you round down. So, three magma methods and one salamander patrol this room. There are three 5-foot square areas of the floor that are made of lava. The door opens when all the enemies are defeated, unconscious, or incapacitated. I was going to say maybe this is like up to personal resonance, but I also don't. I was going to say I don't know how much it matters, but because we went from seven magma methods, seven 5 square foot areas of lava in the room, and three salamanders, to three magma methods, one salamander, and three 5 square foot areas of lava. And I remember it came out at the same time or around the challenge of the Knight of Swords. Because if we had the horseshoes of the Zephyr, and we, I guess, could do mounted combat, the lava in the room didn't matter because the horse levitates off of the floor, the ground. Like, it's not 4 feet. I forget how much. Maybe this is, it's feeling like a vibe of a different room. And so maybe this plays into like the 1 in 10 cups are a winner, but with the 7 of cups, you're only presented seven at a time. So it's almost this energy going back to that 7 of cups and the clouds behind it. It's like choices that require further choices, right? Like let's say low hanging fruit, it's like you're applying for a job, but you don't, it's like you apply to work at the company. I guess it's like schooling, kind of, sort of. It's like if you were applying for a job, but you had to apply for the company first. And once you're hired into the company, then you apply for like a role. And so I know in like at Purdue, you were admitted into the school of like engineering under the first year engineering program. And then depending on your like GPA and stuff like that, after your first year, then you would apply to like a specialization. So like mechanical engineering, industrial engineering, computer electrical engineering, biomedical engineering. It's almost like that. That's like the choices that require further choices. So the first room was to clear enough up from the three salamanders were like shadows of the past. So, and I think that was back in going into Libra season, if I'm not mistaken. It could have been going into Libra season, or it may have been going into Virgo season. Anyway, we've seen it within since Virgo. Because I know, like, when Libra came out, as we entered Libra season, there was something, and maybe it's just been building, something that was like found in Virgo season that would have led to an almost conviction to pursue a certain path in Libra season, or for a certain thing to be made available, like the Emperor and the Four of Cups, basically. Because the Emperor is the Emperor is presented with a choice that is not made available to choose. Like the Emperor doesn't choose, the Emperor is chosen. But the Emperor can always say, like, no, thank you. You know, it's the Four of Cups. Nobody has to take it. You don't have to take it. The default meaning reading of the Four of Cups is you don't take it. Anyway, it felt like those were like, so whatever season had the three shadows of the past that we had to face to unlock the door to move forward, that has been faced. Now, as we move forward, there's this additional salamander. Now, this salamander could be one's own like inner demon or one's like shadow. So, like, let's say that someone operates under a narrative that like they're not good enough for something or something like that. This salamander would be the person needing to face that, because it's almost like it would be so almost impossibly difficult to accept whatever that Four of Cups could represent if that person holds that belief that they're not good enough, strong enough to impact their choices and decisions. And it's just like the magnitude of the opportunity. It's like a shadow of the future or a shadow of the self. Now, I wanted to get this in terms of a place. So if I can get, oh gosh. Okay. All of these that fall on the table, I will set you aside. I want one card, two at the most, preferring one. Like, this could be, again, that's where it's like, take it as it resonates. Is this the same room where you have defeated two shadows of the past and there's only one more shadow of the past to work through before this door unlocks? Or have those shadows of the past been worked through only to reveal another shadow that needs to be faced? And the shadows, I'm saying shadows, but they don't have to be shadows. They're just like challenges to be overcome. Right. So it could be the case that, like, in facing those three shadows of the past, or those three challenges associated with something of the past, there's something new that arises. So, for example, if there were three areas in our life, or if there are three things that to us were like completely different, but in facing all of them, we realized that there was like a common trauma, a common belief, a common experience. This would be like the revelation of that common experience and the facing of that deeper challenge. Okay, we'll go 3, 2, 1. So it's one of these cards in here. There we go. Ooh, and it's face down. I will honor that and keep it face down. So that was the challenge of Scorpio season. The challenge of Scorpio season was to face this last shadow, to face this last challenge, to face the thing that keeps the future from opening. And it's interesting because I know in Reem, the Rare Gazelles, Scorpio and then Libra reading, there was like the double doors where it's like it opens up. But it's interesting that, well, maybe it isn't, because maybe that also came through in her reading. Because there's this compression energy that leads to an increase in momentum. And if we can ride this momentum, it'll shoot us like all the way to the top. But it's just like the expansion. There was the energy of expansion, like that Jupiterian expansion. So maybe this is like Saturn and Jupiter working together. Saturn constricts and restricts. Saturn delineates. Saturn helps provide some sort of clarity so that instead of like it being the Seven of Cups, maybe it's the Two of Cups. We've eliminated five nonsense sort of options or whatever. Maybe it's kind of like that. So there's the Saturn that like cuts away at the unnecessary, that leads to this increase in momentum, this increase in pressure or force, excuse me, so that we could reach something that Jupiter has like opened or expanded. They're like working together. And I'm not surprised because Pluto is now at 0 degrees of Aquarius. 0 degrees of Aquarius is where Saturn and Jupiter conjuncted December 2021 with the Christmas star or whatever. But at least to me, it seemed like when Saturn and Jupiter made that conjunction, there was something that Pluto was masterminding in Capricorn. Because Saturn conjuncted Pluto, went into Aquarius. And then it's like as Jupiter was going to conjunct Pluto in Capricorn, Saturn had retrograded back into Capricorn. And then on that Saturn retrograde back into Capricorn, Pallas Athena had also retrograded from Aquarius to Capricorn. And Pallas Athena was that energy of like, if they didn't get it before, we're going to make sure they get it now. So, like, the Saturn Jupiter conjunction was the big event. But again, it felt like it's because of something that Pluto was very much so involved in. And now Pluto is there. I think Jupiter is still in Gemini. Squaring, maybe loosely Saturn. Let's see. Yeah. So it's this. It's this coordination between the energies of Saturn and Jupiter. Oh, I was like, hold up. This don't make sense. Saturn and Jupiter are not both in air signs. Current planets, that's what I want. Those are my planets. So Jupiter is almost 18 degrees retrograde, Gemini, and Saturn is almost 13 degrees Pisces, 1246 Pisces. So they are in a tightening square because Saturn is now direct until Jupiter goes direct. But I actually like the square here. Again, I don't claim to be an astrologer, but I wonder, I guess to me, as I've heard aspects in transit, when it comes to something like harmonics, I don't necessarily view trines and sextiles as like always positive. To me, it's just like an ease of access, right? It's like both people in the same room at the same time. And if you have someone who's like very loud and someone who's very quiet in the same room at the same time, you're probably not going to hear the quiet one unless you actively engage that person and actively also sort of quiet the loud one. If they're both in the same room, you're going to hear the loud one. You kind of got to get them separate if you want to hear the quiet one. So, like an energy like Saturn or Pluto or anything that's deemed a malefic, and trying to me, that's just like if Saturn is like a restrictive force and you have Saturn trine Jupiter or Saturn trine like Venus, then it's like the energy of restriction is in positive, frictionless alignment with this other energy. So it was like if you get Saturn in a square and Saturn is viewed as like the restrictor, to me, I feel like for people, that would be more positive because it's harder for Saturn to restrict this from another room. You know what I mean? And so, in that regard, with the Saturn Jupiter square, it almost feels like that could be like this play between Saturn and Jupiter, where it's like you get both the restriction of Saturn and the expansion of Jupiter at the same time, and they're not necessarily competing with each other because they are such big planets. They're like 3 houses away, 3 rooms away. Well, there's one and then the two and then three. There are four, I guess. Yeah, four in a square. No, three in a square. Yeah, four in a trine. Because 12 divided by 4 is 3, and there are 3 elements, or 3 modalities per element. And then 12 divided by 3 is 4. There are 4 elements in each modality. Anyway, that's why it's like this almost seamless, um, collaborative effort between the two of them. It's because like you're like if Saturn has its gravitational field and Jupiter has its gravitational field, we're like riding the line right in between the two of those. But if it was like a trine or a sextile, their fields would be like overlapped. And then it's like, but again, I'm not an astrologer. What do I know? 9 of Cups at the bottom of the deck. This was our solid veil the last time we saw it. So there's something in Scorpio season that was an opportunity to face this shadow of the self or the shadow of the future. It's like in clearing that room, it unlocks the shimmering whatever of the veil. It makes it less concrete. Cool. Ooh. Excuse me. And I dropped it again. The moon. Kind of like this, I guess, right? If this is Saturn, the pillar of Saturn, and this is the pillar of Jupiter, in this square, their energies are like interacting with each other, but they're not, their fields are like not like merged and blended together. So you get this almost fine line of a path where you experience both the expansion of Jupiter with the restriction of Saturn. And in this case, it's reading like something that we want because Saturn is eliminating pathways, eliminating choices that we don't want or that aren't necessary. It's like there was a time and a place where it was necessary because maybe we were learning, maybe we were growing, maybe we were transforming. And in that, again, in facing those 3 shadows of the past, there were things that we needed to know. But as we move forward, because we know what we know and because we are who we are, those things are no longer necessary. So maybe there is this element of how important is choice to us, especially like would we rather have options presented to us that aren't great for us that we would never pick in our right minds on a good day? Or are we okay with those being like eliminated? It's like, yeah, I know that you wouldn't want this anyway, so we didn't even bring it. Are you going to be like, wow, like, is that Patrick Shadow? It's like, even if I don't want it, I still want to be presented with the option. Hello. Now it's like, yeah, no, thank you. No, thank you. If I don't want it, keep it wherever it's at. You know what I mean? Also, I think I told y'all like my whiskers got shaved. I was looking at this wolf again that reminds me of the kitsune, the fox. I was like, my whiskers are gone. Which makes eating a whole lot more enjoyable without like hairs just curling into my mouth anyway. I want to get 3 cards for this. I think also too, especially with the depiction of this moon, just like there are choices that lead to other choices, this is a moon that leads to a sun. So maybe that's low key Aksunare. And it took me, so I forgot Aksunare for a minute. I couldn't remember. Aksunare is the brilliant dawn. It's the space of light entering where there were only dark nights before. And because light is where there was only darkness, there is a period of adjustment. We would be like super sensitive because we've only known darkness, right? And it speaks to, it's almost like the marvel of the human mind, body, and spirit and its adaptability that was kind of sort of like used against itself. Like we've adapted to situations and circumstances that we should never have been in the first place. But because we've adapted to it, it becomes known and there is comfort in the known. And to get out of it, judgment, to get out of it, um, we have to readjust. The Ten of Cups. Oh my gosh, love it. And Judgment is still at the bottom of the deck. Ten of Cups. Again, it's like that energy right beyond the moon is the sun. Ooh, I don't know if y'all saw that, but that one was an acrobat. The Two of Swords. On its side, I'm pretty sure this is the exact. Again, all these cards are upright. It flipped out and it did a little acrobatic trick maneuver. I'm pretty sure that's the same configuration that the Two of Swords was in as it sat under the Empress and the Magician of the Cemetery. The Magician of the Cemetery, creator of death. And again, it was associated with like karma and stuff like that. That was the first responder magician. First responder magician. I took a picture of this. Did I? I know I took a picture of the picture of the mess. Yeah. No, it's actually the opposite. So that's how the Two of Swords was sitting under the Empress before. This is in the configuration of Dreamland, the Four of Wands, the Page of Swords. This was like all the other stuff. So this is in a Dreamland configuration. Cool. Love that. I was just wondering about Dreamland. In that case, here, The Two of Swords here, it almost feels like it introduces another pathway. Low hanging fruit. It's like there are certain, because it was a reduction, it wasn't the ace, right? It wasn't the Ace of Cups where the choice is made for us, or the Four of Cups where the choice is presented to us. There's still a choice to be made. In the example, metaphor, story, outline, archetype, script, plot, we removed 5 of the cups from the 7 of Cups, and there were 2 cups left. This is that choice between those 2 cups. And it feels like this is like as far as we want to take something. Like we're taking something, it's not as far as it can go. Like this energy came out in adjacent possibilities before, where it's like the further we go down the hallway, there was like the door at the end of the hall, and then there was like all these doors. And it's like our faith, our strength, our character, but character in terms of like drive, motivation, faith, strength, all of these things. There is this like 10 of Cups ultimate destination that's available, but we could choose to like take an exit ramp at any point. We don't have to go all the way from A to B. Because between 1 and 2, there are an infinite number of non-integer numbers, right? There's 1.1, 1.01, 1.001, 1.0001, an infinite number of zeros, 1. There's an infinite number of stops between 1 and 2, between A and B. There's an infinite number of realities, possibilities, even when we only have 2 things to choose from, almost especially. Especially if we don't like commit to those choices. Anyway, I think the Two of Swords on its side could also be like, between the choices that are left, there is no right or wrong choice. Everything that we don't desire has already been eliminated. So anything that we choose is going to be something that we want. They're just going to be different paths, right? If there's a little girl who wants to be a doctor and a ballerina, like equally, whichever path she chooses, she's going to be happy. And who's to say that she can't be a ballerina who's also a doctor? It reminds me of my girl. I forget her name. I know it starts with an A. No, I'm thinking of another girl. Um, I watched the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders thing with my dad a few months ago, and she was a dentist. I believe she was a dentist who wanted to be a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. Like she did both. Like this Two of Swords on its side, it's like we can do all of the pros and cons, balancing what choice decision are we going to make, but we're going to be happy and satisfied and fulfilled either way. Especially if we align with that. It's like, again, it's reading like the sweet spot between Saturn and Jupiter that Pluto had them sort of set up and established, so that when it entered Aquarius, it could be this like just this, from Capricorn to just like it's because Aquarius is associated with technology, so it's that like what is it, zero friction rail whatever, where it's just like super fast. It's like that type energy. The Two of Cups at the bottom of the deck. Oh my gosh! Wait, yeah, the Two of Cups. There you go. Maybe nobody says that, but if anyone thinks that Patrick is full of it, maybe he is. Maybe it's Maybelline. And strength. The strength is this 8-8 again, which in this deck, it's coming out as wisdom. Because the 8 of strength, it realizes that something has the same like numerical value in this alpha numeric 8 as it did the Roman numeral 8. Right? And that's just how, anyway, that's okay. Just making sure I'm not putting reversals in here. I actually want to get the challenge of Sagittarius season, read Sagittarius season, and then see what bridges these two. Ooh, there is no challenge in Sagittarius season. Sagittarius season is justice. Again, we saw justice behind the Seven of Cups, where the Four of Cups was behind the Emperor. It was justice, the king of justice, the ace of swords, and the king of swords. Justice, the king of swords, and the ace of swords, I think. I mean, justice. So there is no deck dungeon challenge for the majors. Let's see what the boon of justice is. Why not? Why not? Why not? Why not see what the boon of justice is? A major wrong will be righted. A major truth will be revealed publicly. Ooh, girl. Sagittarius revealing major truths publicly? What? No. Not Sagittarius. Anyway. A major wrong will be righted. A major truth will be revealed publicly. Wow. Wow. That's the boon of Sagittarian season. Oof. Cool. Let's see. Oh, almost. That was a dirty flip. That was a clean flip. It's 2 cards. You could take that to the bank. The bank. Vault of Valuables and Wealth Management is the bottom of the deck. 3 cards came out. The Cemetery, the Church, and the Workplace. Memories laid to rest, legacies preserved, faith's foundation, teachings explored, and hub of productivity, ambition, and collaboration. I wonder if this does speak to, again, the energy that was like when it came to Uranus, and how if our beliefs or our understanding, especially of things that are like core to us, are fundamental in some way, like if there are things that are built upon certain beliefs, what we knew or what we interpreted of the data from Uranus decades ago was based upon whatever was like scientifically known to be true or whatever at the time. But now that our understanding has evolved and changed, because the way we interpret it was built upon an old understanding, maybe it would serve to revisit something. And I saw another article that talked about like supermassive black holes, right? And like scientists had this working theory of supermassive black holes, but because of, I think, the James Webb Space Telescope, if it's not Jordan Watson, they've actually discovered that there's like a cluster of supermassive black holes around the origin of like the Big Bang and stuff. I put it in air quotes because, girl, I just don't. It is what it is. Okay, that's what they said. Um, And they were like, based on our current knowledge, like it shouldn't work that way. So now, and that's the thing about, I want to say, like, that's the thing about true science in a way. It's like it always seeks to improve upon itself, right? Like we're always fitting models to observations. And so when we have a good fit, that's when we go from like theory, or that's when we go from like hypothesis to theory. Einstein hypothesized this thing, and now we are still to this day finding things that support the hypothesis. Um, but when we find things that don't support past theories, beliefs, or hypotheses, then it's time to reevaluate, right? This is such an interesting combination between the cemetery and the church. And then we have the workplace, hub of productivity, ambition, and collaboration. I think, too, there's a very low hanging fruit between the cemetery and the church. That's like because of beliefs that were held, there were lives that were lost and that continue to be lost, or there are lines that are drawn. Um, and under this reevaluation of belief, it's like maybe it's this age of Aquarius point that we're reaching where we realize that more or less we all believe the same thing. It's just like packaged different or worded different, or there were things that were happening at one part of the world in one part of the world when when the foundations were being built, and so the teachings may be a little different because what was going on over here is different than what was going on over there. You know what I mean? But beyond this, there's this place of collaboration and ambition where it all sort of works together to serve the greater higher good, where we can realize that just like there were shadows that were built upon, like multiple shadows, seemingly disparate, different, separate shadows that were built upon a common trauma or belief, there it's like the same is true in like the light or in a positive way. So it builds off of that collaboration. And that's this like justice. That's honestly, it feels like personal opinion. That feels like that's the justice of the age of Pisces. Justice of the age of Pisces is like all of these beliefs, all of these religions were meant to unify us, not to be these banners that we fight and kill each other under. Cool. Now let's get three cards for. Ooh, that one turned for. Yep, they're upright. Nine of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. Ooh. Ooh, the Ten of Pentacles. It came out kind of like this. It came out as a diamond. I'll leave it as a diamond because it's the Ten of Pentacles. And the Hierophant is there. Love that energy. Yeah. So anyway, we got the Ten of Pentacles and the Ten of Coins on the table. The Ten of Cups. We got the Ten of Pentacles and the Ten of Coins, as if they're not the same. Which is interesting because again, for the second time, I've had a dream where there were two different people in the dream that were like visually different. Like in the dream, I was so convinced that they were two completely different people. But upon waking, I realized that they were the same person. And the first time I had that dream, it was with a person who was an authority type figure in my high school. But when I started high school, between when I started and when I graduated, she had like her position had increased. So it's like I saw her as like the vice principal and I saw her as like the lunch monitor, whatever, or like the hall monitor type person. I saw her in like both roles, but in my brain, like they were different. But after I woke up, I was like, wait, that's the same person. Why am I mentioning that here? Because the hot refiners at the, I don't remember why. And even in the second dream, it's like I saw two different versions of the same person. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I was like so excited for this collaboration. And then I wake up and I'm like, wait, they're the same person. But now I remember the dream that I had. I don't remember the beginning of it, but I know towards the end of the dream, there was a dance between a person and their inner child. And there was this one person that was like, oh, you're supposed to do this and you're supposed to do that. And I was like, my inner child don't like get down like that. My inner child doesn't want to do that. If that's what your inner child wants to do, that's between you and your inner child. But as for me, we're going to do what we like to do. So it's almost like it's the person and their inner child, but their inner child isn't a kid. Their inner child isn't a child. Their inner child is like full grown because it's like two full grown adults that were like in front of me that I was observing, but like they were the same person. Anyway, I still don't remember why I brought it up. Oh well. Uh, oh look, the Two of Cups is under the Hierophant. Imagine that. I was gonna say it feels like this Ten of Cups has to precede. Oh, is that what this is? Then anyway, it feels like the energy of the Ten of Cups precedes the Ten of Pentacles. It is felt before it is held. I don't know. Another card for Sagittarius season, please. The Nine of Pentacles. The Nine of Pentacles was at the bottom of the deck, and the Page of Pentacles was at the bottom of the deck. Now, cool. The Page of Pentacles was in the same configuration as the Ten of Swords. It was like as Pluto was concluding in Capricorn, it was the Five of Swords upright and the Ten of Swords in reverse. And then there was like this flip, and the Page of Pentacles was in reverse, and the Six of Pentacles was upright. So it was associated with the Ten of Swords was the Sun, the Ten of Cups, and the Page of Pentacles. This Nine of Pentacles, when it was at the bottom of the deck, because there is a certain energy of collaboration here, because of ambition and collaboration in the workplace. Excuse me. Because of ambition and collaboration in the workplace, it's like we can best collaborate and work with others when we are sure of ourselves, right? It's like when we're in the Nine of Pentacles in a space of collaboration, there's no projection of like what we don't have, what we're lacking, what's missing. It's like there's no question of self worth. And because of that, we can be like fully present and engaged and collaborate, right? And as this is, I'm gonna look before and after the Three of Pentacles. Ooh, Page of Pentacles, Death, the Lover, the Hierophant, Mages. There we go. It's between the Queen of Pentacles and the Hanged Man. The Nine of Pentacles is pre-Queen of Pentacles energy. So here, it almost goes back to, we saw the Three of Pentacles. It was the Emperor, the Four of Cups, and then it was like the Three of Pentacles, the Three of Cups. It was just that energy of like someone being like, that's the type of person I want to like collaborate. That's who I want to work with. And there is almost 11:11. It's 11:11 GMT, not GMT, UTC. I don't know where I am in the UK. There's this, the Nine of Pentacles is here as this facet of, as an energy of Sagittarius season. And it's like we can get more in the Queen of Pentacles, or we can get not necessarily less, but this is an evaluation. It's like as we participate and evaluate, so too are we evaluated, you know? And it kind of sort of goes back to the energy, but it kind of sort of goes back to the energy that came out that was like, there is something about you that has attracted the attention of someone who is in a position of power or someone who is very important. And they have made it a priority to meet you for, you go in for the interview and the CEO is there or whatever, right? You're being scouted for some talent, whatever, and the like premier scout is there because you are that person. But if you get in your own mind and start to like doubt yourself, then it could be difficult for you to bring all of you to the audition, to the performance, to the interview. So the very thing that attracts them to you in the first place, it's like it's not there. Right? And a lot of that could have to do with, again, this last sort of shadow that was faced or that came up in Scorpio season to be faced. A shadow of the self or a shadow of the future. And again, it's like that's why the Nine of Pentacles is here, because it's so self-assured. And that self-worth, self-value is there. So again, in a space of collaboration, it'll show up because you could be the person that has that $1 million idea or that sees the thing that no one else has noticed. And if you're like, oh, well, I'm not that bright, I'm not that smart, I'm not that whatever. Like if I notice it and like certainly other people had to notice it. And if they're not doing anything about it, then it's because like it's a bad idea or whatever. Like they're so much smarter than me or whatever. Whatever that keeps you silent in that moment where you're supposed to speak. But once spoken, again, that's when it's this Queen of Pentacles, like, okay, like you are a contributing part of this whatever, or you're just like the quiet one in the room with the loud one that no one hears from. Anyway. And the King of Swords with the Ace of Cups. 10 of Swords at the bottom of the deck. I'm sorry. I don't know, but so in my mind, like the 10 of Swords was at the bottom of the deck. And in my mind, it was just like, have your feelings ever been hurt by a Sagittarius? I'm sorry. Is Sagittarius the villain? Remember when it was Virgo? I don't know. Maybe it's because like the cutting words, the cup that's overflowing like tears, the 10 of Swords. Oof. I felt like since I laughed, I had to say, what's behind the Ten of Swords? Let's get into that. The top of the deck is death. Is that transformation? The sun is rising here in this death card. So yeah, it's like things can't be transformed if they've never died in the first place, right? Unless it's a life cycle that is like a frog or a dragonfly or a butterfly. But even in those, when a tadpole becomes a frog, its life as a tadpole is over. When the caterpillar becomes a butterfly, its life as the caterpillar is over. As we go through these, and again, that was justice. It was like a major wrong will be made right, or a major truth will be revealed publicly. Behind the Ten of Swords is the devil, and behind the devil is the King of Pentacles with the Ace of Swords behind that. This, with the Queen of Pentacles being here with the Hangman, and the King of Pentacles being behind the devil and the Ten of Swords, it's almost an energy that's like whatever the King of Pentacles was doing, wasn't it? It's almost like a mismanagement of funds or something like that. And it reads like it feels like it wasn't necessarily always that way, but maybe at some point the King of Pentacles became corrupted by greed. And so the one who was once so generous is now so like miserly. And it's the queen that's like, the people are suffering. Okay. Can we give them, we have the means to help them. And it's like back maybe when the Page of Pentacles had first become the king, it was like, yes, my queen, I agree. Like, that's why I love you, because you're so considerate and thoughtful and so tapped into and aware of the situation that people are in. But at a certain point, it's like it became about greed. And it's like, well, helping people who can't help you isn't very profitable. And if we want to stay whatever, then we got to do whatever. But it's interesting because at the same time, this Ace of Cups has found this King of Swords. The one that was so knowledgeable yet unwise before. It feels like this Ace of Cups is going to give the King of Swords the context or the push that it needs to become more wise, or to transmute. Transmute is a heavy word. To allow to evolve some of that knowledge into wisdom. Cool. The King of Swords, again, came out upright for the Magician of the Cemetery. But this Two of Swords here, rather than it being the only thing that the Empress birthed before, it came out in the same way as Dreamland. Interesting. Another thing, so when it came to the Ten of Cups and the Two of Swords, when it appeared as like adjacent possibilities in my mind's eye, rather than it being a horizontal stream of water that's like speeding up after it's like goes through a compressor, it's like vertical. So it's like the more you compress the water, the faster the velocity, the higher the water shoots up into the air, right? And it was like one of those test your strength meters. If the water gets high enough, then you like breach the realm of the Ten of Cups. But again, either it'll come out here, or it'll go like all the way, and then you get it's like the fire hydrant. Now, like the rainbow appears in the sky because the water's just like gushing. It's like it goes high enough to exit this vessel and then like escape. That's how the cup overflows. I'm trying to like, there we go. And when it overflows, again, that was kind of like, I think that was the lunar eclipse Pisces into the solar eclipse in Libra. Just like the Mother of Swords, Queen of Swords, was watching the desert for a hand to pop out, when this King of Swords can overflow it can overflow to the degree that the waters escape the vessel and affect, nourish the world around it. That's when this dove knows that, like, this King of Swords is ready or whatever. I just started, I think, the Divine Phoenix Rising Collective. It was like the collective that most recently released at the time of recording, because you talked about the peace dove that was like dive bombing something, and then you have this dove that's like diving into almost dive bombing this, but it's almost like it's delivering something. Actually, it feels like it's picking up. It could do either. Take it as it resonates. Either it's delivering this or it's picking it up. But it's like, as this is happening, this was something that maybe blocked the water before. And as with this compression, as the water pressure is increasing and stuff is starting to like shoot out, it's going to dislodge this. And then the dove is like coming to collect it. It's almost like the compressor is Heimliching something. And as like the water shoots out, eventually this blockage will be dislodged. This blockage feels like it's related to the final salamander in the challenge of the Three of Wands. That shadow of the self or the shadow of the past will be dislodged in this Ace of Cups. And it's because it hasn't yet been dislodged. When it isn't yet dislodged, that's what makes this King of Cups the very knowledgeable one. Or the King of Swords, sorry, the very knowledgeable one. But after it's dislodged, there's like this kindness. And it's interesting because it's almost more the domain of a King of Cups or a King of Pentacles. I don't want to say both the earth and the water have failed, because it may just be time for air to experience this growth on its way to becoming an emperor or aligning with emperor energies. And it's like it wouldn't have happened had the King of Pentacles hoarded all of these things. So the transition between the two of these, the first thing that Sagittarius season is bringing, I kind of, bottom of the deck is the Wheel of Fortune. We see the four fixed signs. We're coming out of Scorpio season. The eagle is looking at the angel. So between like in Sagittarius and Capricorn seasons, like between Scorpio and Aquarius seasons. Ooh, lots of cards. Seven of Swords, Five of Swords, the High Priestess, the King of Wands, and the Chariot. The Seven of Swords and the Five of Swords is interesting because it feels like the Seven of Swords and the Five of Swords feels like a confrontation that doesn't happen, right? Like one person is like angry at whatever and is seeking conflict because they're upset and they need to vent that with somebody, almost doesn't even matter who. So they go out and they're like confrontational, and then they come upon someone who like will not engage them in confrontation. The person's like, yeah, no, I'm just, it's like if you want the two swords that's on the ground, if you want these two swords, you can take them. I'm going to take the rest of my swords and keep it moving because this is not like, just no. And it's like, it's an energy of someone who's like so confused and bewildered and just like everything that they were going to release and or project in that moment, they now have to sit with within themselves because they weren't engaged. And then we have the High Priestess. Now the High Priest, it's that's so funny because last time I saw the High Priestess, she was like raciste, and now she's like, I saw her and I was like, she's like, do you have it, or do you have? And so maybe that speaks to a certain element of distraction. Like when the distraction was present, the High Priestess was speaking this foreign language that maybe you know, maybe you don't know. But when someone refuses to participate in the distraction, at least they can, like, they're speaking the same language as the High Priestess. And then we have the King of Wands and the Chariot. I mean, it was kind of sort of more like this. It was like this. The Chariot was at the bottom, the King of Wands was next. What's interesting here is both the Seven of Swords and the King of Wands are looking at the High Priestess. And it feels like this is why the Seven of Swords can as confidently walk away. I feel like in this confrontation, like someone was so sure that the Seven of Swords would take the bait, but they don't. And the King of Wands is in an interesting position because depending on the ego and the maturity and the situation of and around the King of Wands, if some random person goes up to the King of Wands and they try to start something and the King of Wands is like not engaging, and then they go like, what's the matter? Are you scared of a little whatever? There is the version of the King of Wands that will like that will take the bait and do whatever. But then there's also the version of the King of Wands that's like, I'm the King of Wands. Not only do I not have anything to gain by engaging in this conflict with you, but it's also like beneath me. Full ego. Like, no. And again, it feels like that a part of that ties into the delineation, the removal of those cups that like Saturn is doing. Like this Five of Swords, these are, it's a part of the five cups that have been taken off of the board in the Seven of Cups. If the King of Wands is to engage, he would be choosing one of the five from the full set of seven rather than picking one of the two that's guaranteed to be what he wants. That's why it's beneath this King of Wands, full ego. And that's what leads to this Chariot, things moving forward. Cool. Also, there's like this gray Sphinx in the Wheel of Fortune that I guess is the child of the black and white Sphinx. This is what the King of Wands is choosing. Why would the King of Wands choose to engage with, again, it's not necessarily like, the reason why I say full ego is because it seems like from the position of the Five of Swords, it's like, wow, like your ego is so big that you can't even engage me in this conflict and confrontation that I'm approaching you with. It's like, if that is a huge ego, if that's me being full of myself, then yeah, my ego is massive. I'm on a complete ego trip right now because I am not doing this. Again, both the Seven of Swords and the King of Wands, they're speaking the same language as the High Priestess. They know that there's this, like, not a greater play, but whatever they want, desire, it's beyond this. To make this choice is to almost actively not choose one of the things that they very much so want. And the King of Wands is the king of desire. You know what I mean? So, let alone the whole, like, this is obviously a setup to put the King of Wands in a certain position to compromise his uh, rule or whatever. Under the Wheel of Fortune is the Ace of Swords. Under the Ace of Swords is the Sun. They know. Again, they know what lies beyond this. It's not worth engaging in the conflict. I just feel like whatever this Five of Swords energy is, like, there's a bewilderment. It's like, what? Anyway. Cool. I guess that was and I guess it makes, because again, the Five of Swords and the Ten of Swords were two cards that came out to represent potentials of what, like, the state of Capricorn as Pluto was leaving. I feel like we saw the Seven of Swords recently. We saw the Seven of Swords and the High Priestess, and it was in a very similar role. There was something that the Seven of Swords was not engaging in. And then it was the Six of Swords, the Ace of Swords, and the High Priestess. With some kind of, like, knowledge or knowing, it was moving in a certain direction that was away from whatever. Because the 6 plus the Ace equaled the Seven of Swords. Cool. So finally, what was the place of Scorpio season? Because it came out face down. The rain, nature's cleanse, quenching thirsty ground. That's so interesting. And it's interesting because, again, this felt like the last shadow, the shadow of the self or the shadow of the future that needed to be dislodged from this Ace of Cups so that it's not blocked. And there it is, nature's cleanse, quenching thirsty ground. Because this is nature's cleanse, it feels like it's something that more or less just happens. We don't have to seek out this cleansing. The opportunity will find us. Right? Just like this Five of Swords. So, like, the King of Wands doesn't have to seek out conflict to not engage in, to prove that it has mastered whatever lesson related to its ego, where it would sacrifice or call into question its stability and positioning as the King of Wands. Like, it just happens. You ain't got to go looking for trouble. The bottom of this is the police station, law enforcement's home, order maintained. We saw that recently. I can't remember if that was with the first responder magician. I don't think it was. I think it was before that. Because there was an energy, maybe it was around, did I do the full moon? There was an energy somewhere about creating and maintaining order. Maybe that was like one of the whole sovereignty things. I think so. I think it was that energy of like, there were like the three levels. There was like the bucket, the pipes, and then where the energy pours out of. And it was above the pipes because that's when we get a wider, I want to say, birth of what planetary planetary energies and transits can do. Like our whatever was so narrow that like even the malefics can be benefic and the benefics can be malefic and anything can almost give you anything. And so to it's something that we find out in the space of collaboration. There was a collaborative work environment where people were encouraged to participate again with this Nine of Pentacles. The Three of Pentacles, I mean, I went looking for it. It didn't come out. The energy of collaboration isn't necessarily explicitly here, especially with the Nine of Pentacles. But I mean, the Ten of Cups is there. The Ten of Pentacles was here, right? Even before I pulled those, because when I saw the Nine of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck, it was that energy of like to best collaborate with others, we must be sure of ourselves. And that's also what this King of Wands is. The King of Wands is sure of himself. And the King of Wands has an entire kingdom. So the King of Wands, the Emperor, a queen, they have more to lose than just like their own whatever. Because there are people that like depend and rely on them. They're given that position for a reason. Energetically, they're given that position for a reason. And so for them to stray from the path costs them a lot more than their own abundance and whatever, right? In the grand scheme of things, there are certain fated encounters that the kings and queens and emperors and empresses are to have. There are certain impacts that they are to make. And when they're not there to make those impacts, then the person who was supposed to be changed for the better, hopefully for the better, by them, they don't get that. And so it creates a void, almost like a black hole in the sea of stars. It's like where there was supposed to be a sun, King of Wands, fixed fire, Leo, where there was supposed to be a sun that unites and drives things forward with this chariot energy, with the Wheel of Fortune, Ace of Swords, and the sun. It's like if it were a black hole instead of the sun. So now instead of it being this affirming lighthouse type whatever, it just like it's dark and it sucks everything in and everything falls into like ruin and chaos or whatever. So I guess the introduction into Sagittarius season is like to not be in to not be baited or enticed to get off of your throne, to dethrone yourself. I mean, but beyond that, it's just like keep an eye on the bigger picture or the greater desire. You know what I mean? And then sometimes in doing that, we may take hits and we may take minor losses, but nothing that we lose will compare to what it is that we gain. And again, it goes to that question almost of, would you rather be presented with 7 options knowing that 5 of them are not going to get you where you want? Or would you rather just have the 2? So anyway. Oh, it's time for me to go. So we're going to get final cards. I'm going to go and get lunch. Someone is depending on me to have lunch. Again, the 10 of Pentacles coming out like a diamond. It was like, it feels like this question mark to me. But I'm not going to dig into it. Maybe that's just like the Wheel of Fortune, right? It can tip either upright or it can tip the other way. Now, that way, with the text on the left, that was the Empress who was barren. Because the death of the cemetery, the death of the cemetery was so potent that it overrode any life-giving magic, energy, whatever intention that the magician of the cemetery held. Again, it's like the Empress was the quiet one and death was the loud one, and there was nothing to amplify the voice of the Empress or to bring the voice of, to equalize the voice of death. And so death just overrode that magician of the cemetery energy, no matter how much it wanted to create, as long as it abided by the things that it knew to be true as the King of Swords, which is, again, very much so more knowledgeable than wise. It's almost like, it makes me think of King Solomon and the argument over the baby, right? There was the mother and then the one that claimed to be the mother. And they both, they were fighting over the child. And King Solomon was like, okay, if both of you are the mother, then you can share the baby. So split the baby, right? You get one half, the other person gets the other half. And the person who wasn't the mother was like, yeah, split the baby, split the baby. And the mother was like, don't split the baby. Like, I'd rather my child live and not, I'd rather my child live and me experience the pain of not whatever than like my child dying. And King Solomon was like, that's the mother. Because what mother would be like, yeah, split my baby in half? Hello? But the King of Swords, it's almost like, with the story of King Solomon, rather than giving the baby to the mother, it's like splitting the baby anyway. And it's not because the not mother said to split the baby, but it's some concept of like, oh, well, this is how it should be solved. If both people have claim to this, then split it in half and give it to both of them. I don't know. It's something like that, where it's like it goes through with the thing, and not necessarily because of whatever. That was his judgment. His judgment was to split the baby in half. And so regardless of how things played out after, where one mother in tears because her baby is about to be split in half, and the other mother rejoicing because I guess she just didn't, whatever her reason was, who knows. But farmers market, neighborhood harvest, community thriving. But it's almost like that King of Swords being like, well, this is the judgment that I reached. This is what I said, so I must do whatever. And it's like, okay, anyway, I don't know. I really, really need to get going. He didn't even tell me what he wants. He was like, just go to Subway. I'm like, okay, well, what's your order? Maybe he did send it to me. He did not send it to me. Of course, he didn't send it to me. Why would he send it to me? Woo! Um, but even like when the whole like have your feelings ever been hurt by a Sagittarius came out, it's like that's not a Sagittarian energy that's hurting people's feelings for the sake of hurting people's feelings. Again, it's just that it's that Ace of Swords that was that beat up cloud that was like, it's the truth, you know. It may be a little bit hard to handle. It may not be what you want to hear in the moment, but it's the truth. And the truth, it's a truth that can be utilized in a way to better one's situation, right? It's not something that's said to break someone down or to make them feel a sense of like hopelessness or bad about themselves. It's not to guilt, shame, or blame anyone. It's just the truth. The truth is the truth. And sometimes if we want different, there are certain truths that we have to be open to. And that's part of what the challenge of the Three of Wands is. Because as long as that truth isn't faced, that salamander will always be there. Ten of Swords and the Six of Pentacles. It's almost like a death begets death type energy. It does speak to intention. All right, final card. Final card, please. Final card, please. Patrick's gotta go. Ooh. Knight of Cups, the bringer of sacred waters with the Knight of Swords at the bottom of the deck. Oh. Oh. The Six of Wands is behind. Look at all these people on horses. Man, like that's what I was saying, right? It was the challenge of the Knight of Swords. The challenge of the Knight of Swords was the one who was the Knight of Swords, I believe, gifts you the horseshoes of the Zephyr. Was the Knight of Swords the one that fought the ghost of the past? If you heal the knight, then he gives you the horseshoes of the Zephyr. If you have the horseshoes of the Zephyr, the lava and the challenge of Three of Wands doesn't matter. The lava doesn't matter. The terrain doesn't matter. And I mean, the Six of Wands is here, so at the bottom. So I don't think mounted combat would be a problem. Let's see. Was it the Knight of Swords? The Knight of Swords is engrossed in figuring out a puzzle box. The knight will open the door if she can be persuaded to put down the box for even a moment. However, she is obsessive and reacts aggressively if intimidated. The puzzle can be solved for the knight with a successful DC 18 intelligence check, opening the box to reveal a set of horseshoes of a Zephyr, which she gladly offers as a gift. She was the one that was obsessed over something, and she doesn't even care what's inside. She just wants to solve it. The aggression, she is obsessive and reacts aggressively if intimidated. Intimidation is such an interesting thing. Because, like the Five of Swords and the Seven of Swords, High Priestess and the King of Wands, the Five of Swords can act aggressively in an attempt to intimidate. But if the King of Swords isn't intimidated by the Five of Swords' act of intimidation, then it fails. The Five of Swords energy feels like it's being intimidating, which will cause the King of Wands to react like aggressively or whatever to take the bait. But the King of Wands isn't intimidated by the Five of Swords. Seven of Cups, Nine of Swords, Ten of Swords are the three cards that came out face down. All cups and swords. So is it between the Knight of Swords and the Knight of Cups? Ten of Swords, Nine of Swords. So the Knight of Cups has to go through the Ten of Swords. The Knight of Swords has to go through the Seven of Cups. And they meet each other at, if they go at the same pace, train A leaves Chicago, train B leaves Philadelphia. If at the same pace, they'll meet at the Nine of Swords. It's like the sensitivity of the Knight of Cups has to go through this. Even if the Ten of Swords isn't the Knight of Cups, the Knight of Cups is empathetic enough that it will affect the Knight of Cups. The Knight of Swords, in all of its clarity, intellect, and decisiveness, has to go through the confusion of the Seven of Cups, where nothing is necessarily cut and dry and clear. So it's like they both have to overcome a certain challenge to meet each other at the Knight of Swords, or to meet each other at the Nine of Swords. But it's in this. The Knight of Cups teaches the Knight of Swords to be intuitive, so that the next time the Knight of Swords is presented with the Seven of Cups, it can, instead of trying to use logic or probability or whatever, it can use its intuition to choose the right cup. And there's some way that the Knight of Swords familiarizes the Knight of Cups with like death or loss or something that makes the Knight of Cups able to kind of sort of go where it's needed and not be knocked off of its horse, to not be destabilized. So maybe they don't. Maybe they go through these and they fail. But after they meet at the Nine of Swords and exchange this information, now the Knight of Swords with its intuition and the Knight of Cups with its acceptance, they can face and succeed their challenges respectively. Cool. There's a conversation there. And then the bottom of the deck under the Knight of Swords again was the Six of Wands. They both emerged victorious. Cool. It's what they do for one another. They help each other. All right, final place, the beauty salon. Ooh, transformative space, self-care, and rejuvenation. Emphasis on the transformative space. All right, final place, because I really need to go. Ooh, that was a clean, dirty flip that ended up falling. Bottom of the deck is social media, digital networking, global interactions. I feel like within this space, this card is kind of sort of self-explanatory. I feel like within this space, the card is self-explanatory in general. But in my particular experience, there was a time where no tea, no shade, it kind of sort of just is what it is. My North Node is in Sagittarius. Sometimes, in order to spare feelings, I don't say what it is that, don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. I'm a Pisces. And as long as we're good. Anyway, social media for me for a time was a space where I experienced and witnessed more compassion and care and human sort of spirit than I did in spaces that champion that and that talk so much about it. Like we're all one, we're all whatever, but I saw, again, more empathy, more compassion, more proactive, whatever, on my social media than I did from the people who's supposed to be these earth angels taking us to the 5D, that call people bots in the matrix, that seemingly can't afford a lick of compassion or sympathy because it's all an illusion, a trick of the matrix, none of it's real. And then I saw somebody post a few weeks ago about how much the greater collective has shifted in terms of its awareness and compassion for one another, but how it didn't have a seemingly equal impact on the people who make choices and decisions. It's like the world and so many people in it have moved to a place of compassion, but leadership hasn't necessarily caught up. And then I look at spiritual leadership and I see that echoed and mirrored too. Again, it's like I understand that things are always happening in the world. I understand that empathic burnout is real, but there's just, to me, in my mind, like a disconnect between being empathic and an earth angel and someone who's here to elevate to the 5D, and like someone coming to you hurting and dismissing them in their pain. Like, in my mind, at least to me, it's like, you know, something is not where it should be. And again, there was the, what, 2020? Was it April 4th, 2020? The Worldwide Meditation Day for Peace or whatever. And then the world gets ugly. And the same people who are meditating for world peace are turning away from the ugliness that comes up in the world rather than using that opportunity to bring about the peace by addressing it. They dismiss it, call it an illusion, a fantasy. Again, it's something of the matrix. And what's so interesting is going back to that spiritual singularity, as people who live on earth, as people who live in the matrix, I wonder if it's possible for us to ascend the matrix to a degree where the bots in the matrix are more compassionate and caring and kind and more like the earth angel than the actual earth angels who are on the planet. Because while they ascend the matrix, they're separate from it and their sovereignty and everything else that they claim to be separate from everyone else. And how easy it is under that operating scheme to make oneself redundant. You say you're here for a peace that you never bring about. It's like saying, like, my mission is to end world hunger, and you have this pantry that is overflowing, and when someone comes to you and they're hungry, it's like you dismiss them. Ending world hunger starts with feeding those who are hungry around you. You know what I mean? And when we all do that, well, guess what? World hunger is eradicated. Not being like, well, everyone's hungry. There's always someone hungry. So, anyway, that's been my experience with social media pretty much for the past few years, which again is so interesting to me that I would find, again, like more compassion and just presence. It's like I feel like there is presence in name and there are labels and things that people claim, but that ultimately sort of tended to be empty. And then there are those who just are, who don't necessarily claim to be all of this, but who are like showing up as it. There's presence in action and then there's presence in name. Anyway, the card that came out face down is the desert, scorched horizons, tension, and survival. And then we have social media. So again, those who position themselves to have the most power and influence and impact and everything else would instead deny compassion, empathy, presence. That's why, to me, I don't know, like I have a lot of ego. I have a lot of ego. But I don't have so much that I would call someone else a bot or their pain and suffering an illusion or not real. It's just, I don't know. If that's what oneness is, but again, maybe that's part of the truths, these glaringly obvious truths that Sagittarius season is going to bring about. Maybe some of Sagittarius season is going to be like, this is what you asked for, this is what you manifested, this is what you chose. And these are the consequences beyond those choices. Going back to the emperor in the beginning, who owned their choices, rather than trying to find someone to blame. This person was projecting, this person is in their shadow and doing this and doing that, and I'm this perfect whatever. None of it is me. It's all projections on. And that's another thing that never really made sense to me. It's like this fine line between someone's projecting on me, they're doing this to me, and we're all a reflection of one another. So if it's in you, it's in me. It's like, okay, well, which is it? Is this a projection on you that's not you, or is this you experiencing you outside of yourself? And again, it just plays into the overall larger convenience of specifically religion in what I know to be human history. Like that one dude who was a king who couldn't divorce under his current religious, subscription. So he came up with a whole new one that would let him do what he wanted to do. We still do it to this day. But I guess whatever makes us feel better about ourselves, regardless of us actually, I don't know, that's fine. Anyway, that took a turn in the last 20 minutes. I should have just went, well, I really have to go now. So that's all of the past, I guess. We're chucking it up to ghosts of the past. We're not gonna, any of those cups off the table. Moving forward, pouring into what is generative, what is multiplicative, rather than what is divisive, even if it's divisive under the name and guise of unity. So maybe this last part doesn't resonate for anybody. It was me just venting. But I will say that here within the past month, I feel like specifically, here within the past little bit, it feels like, at least from what I'm seeing, things are starting to catch up. Where it's like we can do more than just claim unity and claim to be empathic, whatever, where we can actually show up for one another. Love that. So let's keep doing that. Because Age of Aquarius has been branded, marketed, manifested in a way that is so collective that if all of us don't get it, none of us will. Everything of that has been said about the Age of Aquarius, that has the manifestive energetic cloud that is descending upon the earth as Age of Aquarius. It's so collective. It's so all of us doing this. So maybe it would serve us to remember, if all of us aren't moving forward, none of us will. Uranus will, it's the planet of like revolution. Hopefully, it's like a happy one. And it's not just carnage, because we can't get it right. You know? Again, that's the thing about, like, if you think of the energy of Pisces and what the age of Pisces was, I don't know why we would put so much hope in Aquarius. No shade to Aquarius, Aquarians, or Saturn, Uranus, Aquarian energy. But it's like, if when things were like light and like dreamy and it couldn't happen, like, I don't know. Their history is littered with failed revolutions and bold ideas that didn't have the foundation to support the weight. But we're going to do it better. Honestly, like, that's where I am. I feel like I'm seeing it like, we're going to do it right. We're going to do it right. We're on the right track. And that's just what I have to keep personally believing, I guess. Because again, like in my personal life, And maybe that's something that's so, I don't want to say like random or weird or unique to me, but I know that I'm going to be good. I know that I'm going to be okay. I trust in my work and my faith in everything that I now am. I'm not necessarily as concerned about me. Like the Nine of Pentacles, like I know I'm good, but I don't want to exist. I don't want to be the only person. You know what I mean? I want to live in a world that's like where we're all good. Anyway, that's my Pisces outside of all this Taurus. And then my Taurus is like, anyway, it's fine. I hope you all have an amazing whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I hope that whatever you need along your path journey, where you find. And until next time, this was like, I feel like it was so like light and bubbly. But again, Sagittarius, North Node, sometimes there are things that need to be said, honestly. Because if we are to continue manifesting these things that we never bring into reality, that creates like, I feel like part of the darkness in the world is a direct response to ascending the earth, ascending to the 5D. Again, we're calling for things that we don't always have the integrity, strength, and backbone to like fully support coming in. So then things are just like dark, and things stay dark because no one cares enough to do anything about it. And rather than facing that truth and reality, it's easier to call it an illusion and a trick of the very matrix that you are here to ascend. I don't know. Maybe I just don't understand because it's not my story. Maybe because it's not me, I don't get it. And all of this is just Patrick's problem. But again, like I said, I do notice that I feel like things are starting to like carry through. Maybe it is because of the age of Aquarius. Maybe we've built the age of Aquarius up to be something that we have to wait until the age of Aquarius to do all of the things that we could have done before. And I think, again, that can be one of the not pitfalls of being so tapped into astrological timing, especially like historical astrology, where it's like we end up passing up opportunities to do things today and now. Like I procrastinate, but like we wait for these transits to like do things that we could do now. We wait for a Saturn transit to be over because Saturn is the planet of restriction rather than utilizing Saturn transits to instill order that should be, to do things right. Because Saturn also has strong associations with like justice and judgment. But again, it's like it's these entire facets of the personalities and powers of these energies and planets and transits that we don't tap into or utilize or use because we experience, or what's like trendy or what's better known is this certain face. But maybe that too is changing, you know? One can hope, one can dream. I'm a Pisces. But I got enough earth in my chart that I'm like, okay, like some of these dreams we need to make reality, especially if like all of the resources are there. Like, what are we waiting for? Hello? Anyway, it's fine. I'm going to go for real now.